Let us begin and talk about this topic of comparison despair. That phrase actually, I learned it years ago, but it's so catchy, and I don't think a lot of people like just know that phrase and really like know the meaning behind it. So,
I've never heard of it before.
well, yeah, you did.
I
You're
don't
the one
think
who. Oh, you're the one who like you brought up this topic.
I know, but I didn't say comparison despair is what
Oh,
I
wait,
is what
what'd
I
you
meant.
say?
I just said
Oh,
like let's
comparison.
yeah, just comparison in
Oh
general.
shit. I thought I
Yeah.
heard you literally say comparison despair. So apparently, like my mind just filled that in.
Yeah,
You never
probably.
heard of it either?
I mean, I feel like I've heard that phrase before, but
Okay.
the way you were describing it, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's like you're in
Yeah.
a despair of comparison, comparing yourself to others.
hmm
So, yeah. I mean, what were the thoughts that you had on it? Like,
Well, I mean,
first
I
time
just think it's
topic.
important to talk about, especially, I mean, so we use social media every day, like me and you, to
Yeah.
connect to people and connect to audiences. And I think it's like social media is really good, but there's also everything has a good and a bad side,
Mhm.
right? And I feel like the negative side of social media is that you can edit your life
Mm.
and you can only put forward what you want other people to see. And if you're a viewer on social media and you're scrolling through your feed and you don't realize that that's happening, which it slips past most of our awareness because a lot of people don't post when they're going through rough times, right?
Mm.
Um, like people will post about vacations, but then they won't post it like what their bank account looks like when they get back, for example. Like that's just a small example. And so I think it's important to understand like it's not always what it seems on social media. And so we have a tendency sometimes to compare to be like, oh wow, like that person's doing this, 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 and this, and I'm sitting here doing this. But really it's not a fair comparison because we don't actually know what's going on behind the scenes. So I just think it's an important topic to talk about and just shed awareness on and shed some light on because I feel like it's causing a lot of people a lot of anxiety and a lot of grief and just feeling like they're behind in life in certain ways. And it's just
Yeah.
not a good measure to go by.
And it's subtle too. As you're describing, especially with social media, like that's actually something I didn't even think of, but it's very prevalent. And honestly, I even experienced that. Like, and you and I, like, I feel like people have this perception of if someone has a large following, like you have over 18,000 followers, I have over 14,000 followers, that like we've got it made, and like we don't go through any of like this comparison despair, or like we don't get down on ourselves, like we got it, like just we got it all figured out just because so many people follow us.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really not true. Like I notice, and honestly it's the times that I'm just not aware that I notice I fall into that trap. Like I'm scrolling on Instagram, and I just notice and see other people's lives and like what they're doing, and I feel inferior in a way, which again, but it doesn't really paint the whole picture. So like it's really not a good view, because you don't know the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
So like someone could be posting about something, like, in fact, an example is one person I know who follows me. Like, I won't say the person's name, but their life, and I'm not even gender, but their life looks like on what they post on social media is great. But I've had conversations with this person, and they're suffering with anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So on the surface, it looks like they have this great life and they're having all this fun, which to some extent they are, because that's what they're posting about. But like behind the scenes, there's that something that's not fulfilled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we have like a similar story in the sense that we were both we were both in school studying something that we knew we would have a good career in,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I was accounting like CPA and you were a pharmacist. Like that's
Yeah.
a straight six-figure job like out of college, right? Like
Yep.
once you graduate. And a similar thing for me, just a career path of like where I could go with that degree and how much money I was making before I quit it to go back to school.
Yeah.
And so there was times like especially when school was getting rough where I would notice that I would think about where I would have been if I didn't quit, like
Mm.
how much money I would be making, like all the vacations I could have gone on. And then I got into the habit of seeing what my friends were doing and kind of
Yeah.
comparing myself, but I realized that I was trying to compare myself on an old like standard, an old measurement that didn't serve me anymore because I knew
Mm-hmm.
that it wasn't all about the money. It wasn't all about the places I was going to be able to travel. It was more about my purpose and what I really wanted to do with my life and what I thought really was going to bring me joy. And then knowing that, I'm going to be working for the rest of my life, like I might as well do something that I love to do. And
Yeah.
so I think the general undertone of comparison is that you need to understand what's a good measure to compare to.
Yeah.
And the best thing, the best measure of comparison is always to yourself, who you were yesterday or who you were a week ago or who you were a year ago, because you're a perfect control for yourself. Like even me and you, we grew up together, but we're still not good controls for each other, because there's so many things that you went through that I didn't go through.
Yeah. And vice versa.
And everyone who you're looking on at social media, they've been through things that you haven't been through. So like, how can you ever like fairly compare two different people?
Yeah.
But you can compare yourself to who you were yesterday, because the only difference between who you were yesterday and who you were today are the 12 hours you were awake today. So it's like you can easily compare what you did today and how you grew to who you were yesterday. So I think it's just a matter of like knowing what to compare to. And then I think that penchant to compare to outside of you to others was baked in from society. Like even when growing up, like your parents would always like wonder what the neighbors thought, or wonder what your other kids were doing and all that stuff. So there was always that undertone of like comparison to someone outside of you.
Yeah, I think it's even rooted in our biology, or our tendency as a human being. This goes back thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, that survival depended on fitting into the tribe. And if you didn't fit in the tribe, then you were useless. Like there was no need for you there. And then that meant you were cast out, and therefore it was very difficult to survive. It was more difficult to survive. So like, I mean, we now live in a modern society, which is where like most of our basic needs are very easy to meet. But now we're stepping into the zone of what makes us happy. And even the last like generation, like our parents, like the baby boomers, is mom and dad baby boomers technically?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
No, I think you're right. I think that's like the era after World War II.
Yeah. They're in their 50s. And so late 50s. And so, yeah, so like that generation is like the common thinking was get a job, and like speaking career wise, like get a job, work 40 years, retire, and you're set. Like don't change things. Whereas now, like in our generation, we're encouraged to, especially with because of social media and the internet, it's just like seeing examples of so many people doing so many different things that actually lights them up. So then we get the idea is like, well, that's possible. But then it goes back to the comparison of like, you need to compare yourself to yourself rather than outside, because everyone has a different path. Everyone's starting at a different time. Everyone has different life experiences. So like, it's unique to you. And so, yeah, I think that's a really good tool to like look at yourself as the person to compare to, of like who you were before to who you are now. Because most of the time, like if you're, especially if someone's like, you're listening to this podcast, like most likely you're growing, like most likely you're interested in the growth, and you are doing something, like you're actively changing your life to some degree. So look back a year from where you were like a year ago. Like most likely you've changed drastically and things have gotten better. So like once you look at that perspective, it's like actually like, damn, yeah, like I'm rocking it. Things are going well. And then you can accelerate with that.
And I think like this kind of advice, it makes the growth process more fun, because you shouldn't be comparing yourself to other people. Like you should just be like, yo, I'm going to like talk to your past self, be like, yo, I'm going to beat you. Like I'm going to be better than you. And I'm going to like live my life to the fullest, better than what I was doing yesterday. And so I don't know. I just think like it's super important to do that. And then in this process, I think you also have to do a little bit of soul searching and really think about what success means to you, because if in the absence of defining what success means to you, you're going to by default be defined by an outside view of what success is. And that was like a big thing that I notice when my awareness drops, when I'm feeling anxious or I'm going through a hard time. That's what I tend to do. I tend to look outside of myself to say, I'm not successful because I'm not here at this age, or I don't have this much money, or I don't have this much savings, or I haven't gone to this many countries. And it's like, yo, that thinking is all bullshit.
Yeah.
Because again, you're comparing yourself outside, And then like once I calm down and I actually think about it, it's like, yo, even if I had that much money, but I was doing something I didn't love, like I wouldn't be as happy as I am now pursuing something that I do love. So it's again, it's a matter of defining what success means to you, and that'll also help with that comparison despair. Because then you got to think, do you want what other people want?
Yeah,
that was like one of the biggest things when I was still an accountant. I would look at my managers or my senior managers, and I would ask myself, do I want what they have? And the answer was no. And I was like, yo, I look up to these people and I respect them, but I don't want what they want, and that's okay.
Yeah. I had actually, now you say that, I haven't thought about this in a while, but I had the same experience, and it's a big reason why, it's one of like 2 or 3 big reasons why I left the pharmacy career path, is because I started working at a community pharmacy in New York, a Rite Aid, and I saw the lives of the pharmacists there. First off, the work hours, 12-hour days. But I mean, minus that, because like if you love what you do, like you work 12-hour days, like you wouldn't mind. But like still just like working that and just like just like dispensing pills, like I wasn't inspired. Like it didn't light me up. And so just seeing their life and like what the experience was, it just like, yeah, the money would have been great, but I was looking within, and that's what matters. So what would you say is like, to like bring this episode in for a landing, is like, what would you say is like a tool? I know like we've provided like several questions that people could start asking themselves, but like, do you have anything off the top of your head of like something that would could be a concrete way to help in stop comparing to others?
I think so. That baseline, like I think my biggest thing is defining what success means to you. Like just do that. And then also take social media with a grain of salt. Like notice when you're scrolling through your feed, what you're thinking when you see certain things, because I just feel like sometimes it's set up in a way to make you feel like you're lacking something.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to be the case. And then another thing, just you should also be happy for others too. So if you're seeing someone and they're enjoying their life, like you got be happy for that person, because in the absence of that, like you're putting out those like bad vibes. If you're like, oh, like I'm jealous of this person, you're being, and let's say you're jealous because you want that. If you're jealous of that person, you're basically putting out bad energy towards something that you want.
Yeah.
You're not acknowledging that that's a good thing to have and that's okay to have. So, but then again, like if you have your own measure of success, that'll be solved. And if you're only comparing yourself to who you were yesterday, that'll be solved. So I feel like those feelings are outward manifestations of something internally that's not set straight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mic drop right there.
Can't drop this mic. It's suspended.
Yeah. Right. It's good. I like that. My one tip just is something that I've been practicing over the last couple of months, and it's really, really helped. Is taking one day away from social media. I every Sunday, like I do not open Instagram or Facebook. So it's provided a lot of space for me to just think like of my relationship with the social media platforms.
Nice.
So I highly suggest even just experimenting with it, even if you don't commit like, oh, once a week, but like just commit, like what would it be like for one day?
You know, even Jesus was off social media on Sundays.
Boom.
The Lord rested.
Take that. Yeah, that's some influencer marketing right there.
What?
That's just Jesus is an influencer.
Oh,
so follow Jesus. Follow the Lord. Yo, how was playing Age of Empires? I don't know why I thought of that.
It was dope.
That was, yeah.
Dude, just getting so nostalgic from all the music and the sounds. I was like, my heart.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, I hope this episode has helped you, listener, and we'll see you in another episode.
Don't compare yourself to other people.
Yup.
That's it for today. So thanks for tuning in, and we really hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it. So any questions, any comments, just connect with us on Instagram. You could always DM us. at Kevin Francis Carton.
And at Chris J. Carton. And also, if you feel guided to, the one thing we do ask is for you to please rate the podcast and leave us a review. This way we can reach more people and impact more lives with this amazing information. With that, we'll see you on the next episode.